Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories like these. Now, let's get into today's story video. AITA for kicking my mom out of my house because of how she reacted to her partner not liking my wife's chili. My mother and I have just reconnected after a 3-year period of estrangement. From the beginning, she and my wife detested one another. They just clashed, and my mother was going through a tough moment in her personal life at the time, which was prompting her to act erratically toward my wife. We both came to the conclusion that the situation could not be salvaged and that we should split ways. In fact, I recently reconnected with her at a party and informed her that I want to make things right. My wife agreed with my point of view. My mother is having an affair with someone I'll refer to as Rob. My understanding is that they are engaged, but I'm not positive. We've only seen my mother a couple of times since reuniting, but I can see she's trying to make the most of it. We're taking it slow since she looks to be quite uncomfortable and hesitant to talk, but I believe she's making an effort. We recently hosted a dinner party for my mother and Rob. When we got home, my wife was making chili in the crock pot, and while it was done, we weren't hungry. They were urged to sample some of her tortilla chips while we waited since she had some on hand and said that she liked dipping them in the chili. Rob took a handful and gagged himself. Despite the fact that he didn't do it on purpose and was clearly uncomfortable, my wife's chili is rather tasty. Maple syrup, chocolate powder, cinnamon, and brown sugar are among the ingredients she uses. In response, my mother chuckled, which annoyed my wife, who has always been haughty about her lack of confidence in her ability as a cook. My wife grew enraged and shouted at my mother, who was sitting next to her. Rob seemed to be sick and excused himself from the meeting. My mother remained still for a moment before sprinting after him and pounding on the bathroom door, pleading to be let in. She became enraged when he continued to ignore her and demanded to be hugged. She has anxiety and PTSD, and he is her comfort person. Just as I was about to go to the door to urge her to stop banging, Rob opened the door for her, and I overheard their conversation. Rob was adamant that they leave since he couldn't stomach the chili they were eating. While my mother was making fun of him and telling him that she had served it with rice, raisins, sugar, and a chocolate sauce, which she had made up, he insisted that it tasted like dog food with sugar and that he was going to have nightmares. When I saw the color red, my mother burst out laughing. Just thinking about it brought up painful memories of how haughty she used to be and how she used to look down on us. I recommended her to depart as soon as they were released. My mother was deafeningly quiet once again, and she said that it was frightening that I was standing outside the lavatory door. She said that she has attempted it, and that she feels I'm looking for reasons to dislike her more than she does. I told her to go because I couldn't bear the thought of speaking to her. Even though she was free to go, Rob cautioned me that I couldn't just take apart the relationship and then send her out expecting her to be motivated to continue working on it. Story 2. AITA for deactivating my niece's social media when she refused to do an internet safety course. I have custody of my sister's 13-year-old daughter. She was old enough for social media a few months ago, and I gave her permission to establish accounts on her birthday. I stipulated that she keep her accounts secret and only accept follow/friend requests from individuals she knows. I trusted her because she showed me her accounts, which were set to private. I also promised to follow her so I could see what she was publishing. I decided to check her profile a few weeks ago since I hadn't seen one of her postings in a while, despite the fact that she was on there all the time. Because it's public rather than private, she altered her settings, and I'm no longer following her. Because I can still access her profile, I'm thinking I was soft-blocked. However, it was her profile that piqued my interest the most. She has her whole birth date, full name, town name, ethnicity, and other information about herself, as well as images of her and her pals in their school uniforms, with the school insignia visible. I explained why this was an issue, but she replied that it wasn't. I informed her that she had two choices: attend an online safety course or delete/deactivate all of her profiles. She went with the first choice. I paid for a brief course, an estimated 4 hours to complete. It took a few days, but she finally informed me she'd done the course and passed with flying colors, even handing me the certificate. I visited her profile after a day, and everything was exactly the same, except I was banned and had to go incognito to examine it. I also went to the course website, and it said that you, as in the user, spent 17 minutes on the course. That was the last straw, so I urged her to delete/deactivate everything, and I installed software on the PC to disable social media. I can't do much about the applications on her phone, but it's a start. She's informed my mother about what I've done, and she's furious. Says I had no right to remove her social media and that I should restore it, apologize for being anxious and controlling, and allow her make her own decisions regarding her personal safety. I've said that she's 13 and has no understanding of internet safety. She may return to social media once she knows how any component of online safety works. My mother believes that this is ridiculous and that I have shifted the goalpost since she finished the course as I requested, but there is no way she could have completed a 4-hour course in less than 20 minutes. Mom says she's 13, not a little child, and I have to believe she understands what she's doing. I told her she had to earn that trust first, and she accused me of shifting the goalposts, claiming that her completion of the course should have earned that trust. AITA for denying her access to social media. To clarify, this is more about my dispute with my mother and her charges that I'm controlling. I don't think anybody would label a 13-year-old in a hole. In addition, to explain a few points, I'm a lady. My elder sister is the mother of my niece. Because my sister and niece's father are both uninvolved in her upbringing, I have sole custody and have officially adopted her. My mother, who is also my niece's grandma, is the mother I described before. Update. The shortened version is I gave my 13-year-old niece, whom I adopted, access to social media. She violated my terms for possessing it, so I required her to complete an online safety course, which she lied about attending. When I realized she was faking it, I made her remove all of her social media accounts. She informed my mother, who labeled me a controlling and overbearing jerk, and said my niece knew exactly what she was doing. It's been a couple of days. I went through every comment on my initial article and took note of everything you said, especially the bit about my niece being unlikely to trust me after this. I sat my niece down for the last time. I spoke with her again about all the information she wanted to include, attempting to explain why it was a poor idea to post her complete name, date of birth, location, and anything else online. She was still unconvinced that it might be hazardous, so I asked her precisely what information she intended to provide. She informed me. I looked it up online. The whole first page of results was dedicated to her, or to my sister, her mother, or to me. It displayed her school webpage since she was listed in the newsletter. Her entire name also brought up her personal phone number, as well as a webpage with information on the adoption. Despite my extremely diligent social media presence, I then showed her what was associated with my name. The findings included a background check website that revealed all of my previous identities, phone number, location, where we now reside, and other information behind a paywall. She now thoroughly grasps what I was attempting to convey to her. We came up with a fresh plan. She is permitted to use social media, but instead of include all of the information she desired, she is only permitted to include her star sign and the fact that she is a juvenile. She may provide a place, but it must be in our county, not in our town. Her profile will be set to private, and she will only be able to connect with individuals she knows in real life. I'll follow her using a fictitious account so her pals don't notice her aunt on her friend lists. These limitations will be lifted in time. If she messes it up, it's all deleted again, and we won't even bring up the subject of social media until she's 15. My mother, on the other hand, I'd phoned and urged her to back off. I said that I have custody of my niece, thus I make the choices, and mother has no right to make them more difficult for me. That if she actually believed my niece posting her complete name, date of birth, location, and so on online was safe, and it irritates me that the only time I hear from her is to tell me that I'm doing something wrong, when she herself was offered the opportunity to adopt my niece and declined. Mom basically stated she couldn't believe I'd treat her this way and that I shouldn't expect to hear from her for a time.